The escalating military conflict between the United States, Israel, and Iran on February 28, 2026, represents a significant shift in global geopolitics. These 85 professional comments analyze the strategic, humanitarian, and economic implications of the strikes. The coordination between the IDF and U.S. Central Command CENTCOM suggests a highly synchronized multi-domain operation. President Trump's characterization of the operation as massive and ongoing indicates a shift from surgical strikes to a campaign of attrition. The targeting of the Pasteur district in Tehran signifies a direct challenge to the Iranian leadership's physical security. Reported strikes on Isfahan and Tabriz suggest a comprehensive effort to dismantle Iran's missile manufacturing and nuclear infrastructure. Israel's declaration of a national state of emergency reflects the high probability of an asymmetric response via regional proxies. The use of the term preemptive strike by Defense Minister Israel Katz aims to establish a legal framework under international law for the aggression. U.S. officials focusing on military targets seeks to mitigate international backlash regarding civilian collateral damage. The reported hit by 7 missiles near the Supreme Leader's compound is an unprecedented breach of Iranian sovereign security. Israel's decision to close its airspace suggests they are bracing for a prolonged aerial conflict involving long-range drones. The destruction of missile industry infrastructure is likely intended to prevent Iran from replenishing its arsenal in the short term. Domestic crackdowns in Iran, resulting in over 5,000 protester deaths according to HRANA, provided the political impetus for this intervention. The failure of indirect negotiations in Davos appears to have been the final diplomatic threshold before military action. Iran's vow for a crushing response through Tasnim news agency signals that the IRGC is likely activating its Ring of Fire strategy. The deployment of a U.S. armada to the Middle East was a clear deterrent that failed to prevent the necessity of kinetic action. This is the second major U.S.-Iran engagement in less than a year, indicating a collapse of regional deterrence. Striking multiple cities simultaneously Kermanshah complicates Iran's air defense prioritization. The U.S. objective of protecting national security interests serves as the primary justification for the escalation. The death to America rhetoric cited by Trump highlights the ideological chasm that remains the core of the conflict. Military assets moved closer to the region over the past weeks were the leading indicator of this morning's events. The effectiveness of Iranian air defenses remains a critical question as smoke plumes rise over the capital. Preemptive measures taken to protect U.S. personnel in the region suggest intelligence anticipated a high-intensity Iranian countermove. The focus on ballistic missiles and launchers addresses Israel's most immediate existential concern. The transition of Israeli hospitals to underground facilities indicates a shift to a total war footing. U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee's directive to citizens in Israel underscores the imminent danger to non-combatants. The operation seeks to raise the missile industry, a goal that requires sustained bombardment rather than a single wave of strikes. The shift of Tel Aviv's Suwarovsky Medical Center to underground operations highlights the severe disruption to civilian life. A 35-year-old eyewitness in Tehran described the situation as terrifying, indicating widespread panic among the Iranian populace. The health ministry's order to discharge non-critical patients in Israel creates a massive strain on the healthcare system. Prohibiting public gatherings and school attendance in Israel will have an immediate and sharp impact on the domestic economy, the deadliest crackdown in Iranian history. With over 3,000 deaths confirmed by authorities, highlights the internal instability of the regime. Social media footage of smoke over Tehran serves as a primary source of information in an environment of high censorship. The preemptive nature of the attack is a psychological tactic intended to demoralize the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. Israeli civilians seeking shelter in Ramat Gan reflects the reality of life under constant missile threat. The humanitarian cost in Tehran could escalate quickly if strikes expand beyond strictly military compounds. The US-based human rights activists, news agency RANA, data serves as a crucial metric for the moral justification used by the Trump administration. Discharging patients who do not require hospitalization is a desperate measure to clear beds for expected casualties. The death to America chants mentioned by Trump are used to frame the regime as an irrational actor. Eyewitness reports of planes in the sky over Tehran suggest that Iran's air superiority has been effectively challenged. The closing of Israeli airspace effectively cuts the country off from international travel and supply chains. The transition to emergency operations from again, David Adam, indicates a mobilization of all national resources. Trump's focus on Iranian lethal force against civilians frames the U.S. strikes as a humanitarian intervention. Tehran residents freaking out and leaving indicates a potential for mass internal displacement within Iran. The exceptional sectors allowed to work in Israel highlights the need to maintain essential infrastructure during conflict. Medical, nursing, and logistical teams in Israel are now on a 24/7 war footing. The psychological impact on Iranian citizens, seeing strikes on the supreme leader's doorstep, cannot be underestimated. International travel to the Middle East is likely to face a total standstill as the conflict broadens. The state of emergency in Israel is a legal trigger for broader executive powers and military conscription. Protester deaths in Iran, 5,520, remain a point of contention and a catalyst for U.S. military policy. The situation in Tehran's Pasteur district creates a power vacuum concern if leadership is directly targeted. Families of U.S. Embassy team members in Israel being told to take immediate action highlights the vulnerability of diplomats. The menacing activities cited by the U.S. include threats to overseas bases that house thousands of American troops. Iranian state-affiliated media is focusing heavily on revenge to maintain domestic support during the crisis. The physical destruction of missile sites will likely lead to environmental hazards in industrial zones like Isfahan. The shift to underground parking facilities for hospitals in Haifa Rambam shows the geographical scale of the threat. Civil unrest in Iran could be reignited by the perceived weakness of the regime's defenses. Global oil markets are expected to see immediate volatility as Isfahan and other industrial hubs come under fire. The massive nature of the strike signals to other regional actors Hezbollah, Houthis, that the U.S. is willing to escalate. Trump's Davos comments regarding a willingness to talk appear now to have been a tactical distraction. The ceasefire of June 2025 has officially collapsed, ending a brief period of fragile stability. The armada in the region represents a multi-billion-dollar investment in power projection. Indirect negotiations are likely dead for the foreseeable future, replaced by kinetic diplomacy. The targeting of Iran's nuclear program again shows that previous strikes did not achieve permanent neutralization. This conflict will likely drive a deeper wedge between the West and the axis of resistance. The U.S. is watching Iran very closely, a phrase that has transitioned from surveillance to active engagement. Israel's preemptive strike doctrine is being tested on its largest scale yet. Radical dictatorship label used by the White House precludes any immediate return to the negotiating table. European allies may find themselves caught between U.S. military goals and their own energy security needs. The death to America narrative is a powerful tool for domestic U.S. political mobilization during an election cycle. Iran's retaliation with drones and ballistic missiles could target global shipping lanes in the Strait of Hormuz. The crushing response promised by the IRGC will likely target regional U.S. allies like Saudi Arabia or Qatar. Trump's 47-year timeline of animosity frames this as the climax of a half-century of Cold War. The use of warplanes and massive bombs indicates a return to conventional high-intensity warfare. National security interests are being redefined in real time by the success or failure of these strikes. The ceasefire of last year is now viewed by critics as a period of Iranian rearmament. Global supply chains, already fragile, will struggle with the closure of Middle Eastern airspace. The Zionist regime rhetoric from Tasnim serves to unify regional proxies against a common foe. Israel's highest readiness level in medical facilities suggests they expect a conflict lasting weeks, not days. The massive and ongoing campaign implies that the U.S. has a long-term target list that is not yet exhausted. Iranian missiles hitting eluded in 2025 set a precedent for direct counterattacks on U.S. territory. The domestic crackdown in Iran provided the necessary moral high ground for the U.S. to act unilaterally. Geolocated videos by CNN provide an objective layer of confirmation in a fog of war environment. The role of the IRGC in preparing for revenge suggests they remain the primary decision-makers in Tehran. Trump's video message was timed to control the narrative before international condemnation could form. The objective of eliminating imminent threats is a broad mandate that allows for extensive military latitude.